we ready? Chris, do you want to give me a finger point just so we have consistency between all the episodes? Hello and welcome to First Geek 411. This is our quick Snyder Cut discussion. You got me, Cameron. You got Chris, Emma, Shanine, and special guest Anna Reel. Hi, Anna. Thank you for joining us. So we are going to be discussing our quick thoughts on the Snyder Cut of the Justice League, and kind of pros and cons, things that we liked and didn't like. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And so I guess real quick as we go into it, I guess Anna and I are the only ones that have seen the whole thing.
Oh.
So
I haven't seen any of it. I don't know why I'm here.
You're here to make up better villains than the ones
Great.
that were in the Snyder Cut.
Give me a name.
I literally believe you just did. In our episode 163 that people should go check out. So
I just haven't even seen the non-Snyder Cut, whatever the original was. So
Anna, what are your thoughts on Snyder Cut? Have you seen the OG Justice League? OG as in 2017, but like, have you seen the original Justice League movie? And
have. So my husband is a really big Batman fan, and both of us kind of have a low bar. Like, we just like to enjoy movies. But I've learned through this experience that I am a little bit more critical than he is, especially when it starts off with a very long scene, and I make a comment about, like, this is taking forever, and he's like, shut up. Yeah, I talked about it a little bit in that episode 163, but I enjoyed it, but I probably won't ever watch the whole thing ever again. I appreciate how they give some more background, like some backstory to the characters. And I think that helped a lot in connecting with the characters instead of like just jumping in and going. I even teared up a little bit during some of the backstories. Yeah, those are some of my initial thoughts.
For me, like, and this is kind of the thing I've been saying to people that haven't seen it, like, if you wanted Justice League to be good, you'll probably like the Snyder Cut. But if you were not interested in the Justice League, this is not going to change your mind. And I think a lot of that just has to do with the pacing. You just referenced the scream scene at the very beginning of it just goes. It's such a long scene. Why is the scene so long? But then you get into like the really cool character growth, like especially for Cyborg and Flash. Like, shout out to your Flash shirt. Like, they made me feel a lot better about the fact that we're getting a Flash movie, because like, oh, this character can be interesting.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I think it did get better over time. In the beginning, I was like, oh no, what is this going to be? I feel like they didn't give a quick enough of some kind of hook, or like, I mean, I guess maybe they knew the kinds of people going into this movie, but it just feels like there should have been something more emotional, you know, with the movie that came before it, with Superman, you know, dying. But I feel like it then starts to pick up and get better along the way.
So like, they did this as 6 parts, like there's 6 chapters, but it's a movie. So like the pace, like I say that like in the sense of like, it's a movie, not like a show. So like the pacing isn't consistent between the sections. So like to your point, like the first like 2 sections are basically the intro, and it's basically just all the backstory over that first hour, and then stuff starts happening. But like, it's just like, man, like this is going. and um, Deanna made a comment about how if you didn't use as much slow mo as they did in this, it would be like a 30-minute shorter movie. Like,
Yeah.
why is there so much slow mo? Like, it's good sometimes, but why is there so much? It feels like someone
Too
like
much of a good thing.
yes,
It becomes a bad thing.
yeah. Honestly, it kind of feels like one of the like interns on set was learned how to do slow mo, and then like convinced them that like it's like Zach, we gotta use slow mo. It's like okay, they like we got this new slow mo tool. But Chris, I know you watched part of it. How did you feel about the part that you watched?
As I mentioned, it was a 20-minute scream. And I was like, if this is how they extend this movie to 4 hours, I can't do it. I've got shelves to build,
You got shelves to
cameras to play with, books to read.
Have you seen the memes going around of like every time Wonder Woman does anything and it's like this violinist and her violin's on fire? That's the music that starts playing every time.
I highly recommend the pitch meeting for this. It's in our Discord. Chunk posted it earlier. It's so good. And they make a very similar joke to that meme about where like the person who's pitching the movie like has the Wonder Woman theme on their phone and plays it really loudly every time they talk about the character. And it's like I feel like that should have been toned back. Like but in our main episode, Shanine brought the topic of like bad movies and things like that. And one of the things for me is pacing. And like watching this, I was like, it's really cool to see this, but it really feels like there's a reason this movie was cut like to 2 hours. Like, I mean, like obviously there's all the background of what happened with Snyder and with his daughter and things like that, why he left the project. But even if he hadn't, there's no way we would have gotten this 4-hour cut. And like for good reason. Like we still would have gotten a different movie than what was released in theaters. But like I'm like it's one of those like this definitely was not what was going to hit theaters.
Ultimately, what this is it's Snyder taking the footage that was available and trying to tell the story he originally wanted to. And the only way to do that was to pretty much use everything.
Yeah. With reshoots. There were some, or not reshoots. There were some additional scenes filmed, but so he did not use any of the shots that Wheaton filmed for the movie. But he did film some new stuff as well. For reasons like it's 4 hours. Like I feel like we could have decisions were made. I guess maybe that's the way to say it.
Here's the real question. From the very limited amount that I know of the storyline, was Superman the bad guy?
No.
Steppenwolf.
So Emma, I have a question for you. What good superhero story doesn't have the heroes grave robbing and practicing necromancy? Tell me one good superhero story that doesn't involve those two things.
Green Arrow?
Literally every story. So they basically bring Superman back from the dead and he goes crazy and kind of almost murders a bunch of people.
Right, so I don't need to reinvent the bad guy here.
Right, yeah. And then he sees Lois Lane and remembers he's like an intelligent human or intelligent space being. But
chat, they do mention that a studio would have never released a 4-hour cut. No, what they would have done is they would have capitalized on 2 separate movies.
Yeah. Which, like, they
or
could have
3.
done good pacing. They could have done, like, there are ways to do that type of thing.
Which is ultimately what DC struggles with because they're like, well, we're just going to throw it out there. And if people like it, then we'll make another. But it's like, no, like if you want to tell this longer story, you have to break it up and just pray the first one's good enough to draw your audience.
If they needed help with pacing, They should have talked to me because apparently the people at school tell me I'm really good with pacing. So, come talk to me. Give me a low-level job so that I can do something.
I believe in you, Emma.
I want to make movies.
That's what we were missing from the movie. We were missing Emma.
Yes. Janine, do you have any interest in watching the Snyder Cut?
So here's the thing, is I saw Justice League in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I was there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like maybe 1% of the movie. That's maybe high. Like I remember maybe like 30 seconds of Dark Superman. I think Wonder Woman and Aquaman had like a witty back and forth at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And
what if I told you they took the witty back and forth out?
And I legitimately had to Google who the villain was because I could not remember. I had no idea. And I saw him and was like, I don't know if I remember that.
They made him look a lot different in this movie, though.
Yeah, they did. I think I really liked the redesign.
Another question.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the whole thing with the mustache issue?
So
yes. There was originally, yes.
So the mustache issue happened because
they had to redo some.
Yeah, for the stuff Snyder filmed, Henry Cavill didn't have a mustache, but then after the project was like delayed, he went and started filming something else where he had a mustache, and he contractually couldn't shave the mustache.
So they had to edit it out.
So they had to edit the mustache out.
And it was Enola Holmes, wasn't it? That's what he was recording at the time.
I don't think it was that. I think it was something else, but I could be wrong. But yeah, so they had to like remove the mustache with CGI and just did not.
Now that's what I would like to see.
Yes.
Barrel with a mustache.
Yes.
But yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's like the only thing I remember from
Mission Impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Travis. And so, I was trying to think there was something else about it I was going to say. They did one of my favorite scenes from Justice League in theaters was in this, which is the scene when they're fighting Dark Superman, and the Flash is like, they've established that. I mean, of course, the Flash is super fast, and like he's like running up to try to help, and Superman just like turns and looks at him, and I just love that scene, like the chills of like, and like the expression on Flash's face, where he is like, oh, like this person's like on the same level. And like I just love that scene. So shout out to still having that scene.
Yeah.
One thing where DC really fell apart in putting together the Justice League is that they relied on Justice League to introduce characters like Cyborg and Flash into their cinematic universe, which really detracted from them being able to develop a villain.
Yeah.
So when you like something that, you know, obviously the Avengers did well is you knew the characters. You didn't have to you didn't have to explain them. I mean, there's like a few little things in there, and then you can further like explain why this villain is the thing, rather than just this otherworldly big bad coming to wreck stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the only exception there that I can think of is Spider-Man, but Spider-Man's unique in that he's already had so many movie attempts that people are just like, radioactive spider, like bit, ta-da, Spider-Man. So, but they didn't need an introduction. He just shows up and everyone's like, it's Spidey.
Yeah. So I kind of live tweeted part of this as I watched. And one of my comments, Chris, to your point that you just made, is Cyborg coming to grips with his powers was really cool. Sure would have been cool if he like had a movie to introduce us to the character. Like, Like they're just trying to put so much weight on introducing that character, that like it's really cool. Yeah, but it's a lot of time that could have been in its own movie.
Give it,
and could have been really cool.
Like the ensemble needs to be independently.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, what they did is they tried to use this movie to bankroll the individual movies afterwards. Mm-hmm. It's like it's a little late for that. So like they tried like, okay, now we did this. Here's Aquaman. Like Aquaman's coming. It's like I don't care now.
What were you saying, Anna?
I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
No, that's.
I heard somebody say on a podcast, and I'm going to adapt what they said, but overall, the Snyder Cut reminded me of watching an anime intro sequence. Where like it's like stuff is happening and I kind of like it, but it's not canon and none of it like makes sense. Like that was kind of like my take watching it, was like it just felt like this prolonged intro, and it was like like I mean even to like the points that were just made, like it kind of felt like they were like even more so than the actual Justice League movie. They're trying to set up so much. And it's like some of that setup, again, I loved what they did with Cyborg. I mean, he commits like financial fraud or whatever, but like, you know, as superheroes do. But like, it's super interesting to see that. But
I mean, what do you think Batman's doing the entire time?
It's
called money laundering.
Yeah, billionaires are notoriously honest, Chris.
Like you can't hide what he couldn't like technically there's a paper trail somewhere. I mean, he has to launder that money somehow so he can spend it on his own gadgets because otherwise he's stealing from the company.
They keep the scene in where the Flash asks him like, it's like, so what's your superpower? And he's like, I'm rich.
Oh man. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up this portion? And Anna, I guess since you and I are the ones that have seen it all, would you recommend people watch?
Wait.
Go ahead.
I have a closing thought.
Okay.
That's more of a summary.
Okay.
Alien humanoid dies.
Okay.
People make bad choices.
Yes.
Alien humanoid comes back to life.
Yes.
Oh, an alien humanoid somehow dies without kryptonite? Don't know the backstory behind that. But alien humanoid comes back to life because people made bad choices.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's goes crazy and is reminded he's not crazy because of a lover.
Yes.
Period.
And then they stop the bad guy. Yes.
Don't know if the bad guy dies.
Yes, bad guy does die.
Okay, guy dies again via green glowy element.
A different bad guy.
Different bad guy dies.
Yeah, the actual bad guy dies.
Actual bad guy dies.
Yeah, Superman's only kind of the bad guy for like one scene.
Great.
Where he wrecks everyone else.
There's my summary. Who's the other bad guy? Does the other bad guy need a backstory invented for him?
Actually, kind of, yeah.
Okay, what's
technically
his name?
No, because he's more fleshed out in the comics, but
yeah.
No, okay. Keep going with your summary and recommendation.
Well, go ahead, Anna. What do you think? What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I would really love if it was a full movie of these backstories. It just takes so long for something to actually happen big. But I do love what they did with the backstories. It just, I don't know. And if I'd recommend it, I feel like that's very dependent on the person I'm talking to. I don't even know what to say there.
You have trouble falling asleep?
Yeah,
I mean, Snyder Cut.
I feel like I'm gonna get in trouble with my husband because he loved it. So there's certain kind of, if you're the kind of person that you just like watching a Batman movie and you're not too critical, then sure, yeah, I recommend it. It's more content.
For your consumption.
That's
like that the on the entirety box of the Doctor Who.
It's more content.
It's more content. Sure, I'll take another audio series. More content.
Yeah. I completely agree with everything you just said. Like it's. I even struggled to say I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed the idea of it quite a bit. And I think it's really cool that we got to see this and it got released and it got made and that Snyder was given millions of dollars to finish this project. And I think that side of it is better than the movie. But I would recommend watching the last 3.5 chapters. But the beginning ones, again, there's some things that should have were obviously would have been cut and if this was the real movie, that kind of thing. But yeah, so that concludes our thoughts on the Snyder Cut. Thank you, everyone, and have a great week.